Hello and welcome to Apex TV. I'm Paul, this is my buddy Matt, and today on Tech Time we're talking about winter storing your motorcycle. Fuel, batteries, servicing, tires, and even rats are covered, so stay tuned. All right, now we get this question a lot this time of year, and that's how do I properly store my motorcycle? Now, there's a lot of different information out there, a lot of contrasting views. We're just gonna go through what we believe is the right way to look after your bike this upcoming season. All right, so first up is fuel. Now, there's basically two main elements when we talk about fuel, and that's one is fuel level, and the other one is fuel stabilizer. Now, Matt, let's just talk about fuel real quick. What's the reason why you wanna fill the tank before storing it versus emptying it?
So basically you want to prevent any corrosion buildup, oxidization, and moisture buildup inside the fuel tank. If the fuel is left at a low level, that allows more room for moisture to build up, and you can actually rust out your tank internally. So to properly prevent that, you'd fill your tank fully before you put your bike away in the winter.
Okay, now part of filling the fuel tank obviously is adding fuel stabilizer to it. Yep. Is that something you want to do after, before, like, and then I guess how much? Like, how does that whole fuel stabilizer thing work?
So your bike will have specified value, and you want to follow the instructions on your actual fuel stabilizer jug that you're using for the proper ratio that you have. And then you want to add the fuel stabilizer and then fully fill your tank. Once your tank's full, you can run your bike for at least 10 minutes to get the fuel fully distributed throughout your entire fuel system.
Okay, that sounds pretty good. Let's talk about batteries, because I think that's probably one of the biggest things that we see all the time in the springtime is dead batteries and people not understanding what happened. What's the best practice to make sure you have a good battery in the springtime?
So the best thing you can do is ensuring your battery stays above 12 volts all winter long. There's two things you can do. You can use a tender system like this. You hook a lead to your bike's battery and just plug it into the wall, and that ensures a strong charge all winter long. And the second would be completely removing the battery from the motorcycle and intermittently charging it throughout the wintertime.
Okay, so then what causes a battery to fail typically through the wintertime?
So if a battery is allowed to discharge below 12 volts, you can cause some sulfation on the plates inside the battery, which can cause damage to the cells. In doing this, you will decrease the amount of cold cranking amperage inside the battery, and you'll potentially not have a bike that will start in the spring.
Right, and the cold cranking amps I think is the element that a lot of people are missing, because they'll test their batteries and they'll say, well, it has 12.5 volts, how come the bike doesn't want to start? And that's because the amperages went out of the battery. So yeah, that's the main thing, and just something to keep in mind when you're obviously storing your bike. Now, the next thing is obviously servicing your bike. A lot of people service their bikes once a year. We suggest doing it in the fall, and what's the reasons for that?
So at Apex Cycle, we believe that doing a service and changing your oil in the fall is best. Fresh oil inside your engine will prevent any corrosion, oxidization, and any moisture buildup inside the engine. And then, as well as during the service, we can take a look at your chain, make sure it's lubed, your pivot points, prevent any rust and corrosion from building up on them, as well as your tires, making sure they're inflated to a proper PSI.
Right, now on the subject of tires, because that's also one of the things that we kind of want to watch out for, what do you think is the best thing to do with tires to get them through the wintertime?
So the best thing to do would be to inflate them to the manufacturer's pressure rating, as well as lifting it if you can with some lifting gear to get the front and rear wheel off the ground. If you cannot do this, just basically place something on the ground in between the tires and the concrete to prevent any dry rot from happening.
Right, now dry rot is definitely a symptom of environment, which kind of leads us to our next point, is where should you store your bike in the wintertime?
So the best place is a good climate controlled environment. The up and down changes of heat, humidity, and cold can cause condensation, rust, oxidization on your paint, inside your engine, your fuel system, and it's just not a good thing to happen. A good climate controlled environment is very important.
Right, right. Now, I guess not everybody also has access to good climate controlled environments, but you know, it's definitely a good practice. Now, probably one of the things that I think arguably is maybe more important is rodents or pests.
Absolutely. So as well as a good climate controlled environment, you want to have a pest controlled environment. We've had many instances in the service department in the spring where rodents have got into the air box and eaten the air filter and your wiring harness, and that can lead to some very costly diagnostic time and repair time in the spring.
Right, and just again, in the springtime, service departments, especially in Ontario or Canada, are very busy. So trying to get in for a shop for a couple-day job or whatever it might be to repair the wiring harness also can add some challenging and delay your riding season, that sort of thing. So definitely worth putting the effort into making sure your bike is stored well through the wintertime to ensure you don't miss any riding is an important thing. All right, some final touches maybe on the storage thing would be also you could make sure the bike is put away nice and clean so you don't have any foreign material causing any corrosion or damage to your paint through the wintertime, as well as a cover. A cover's not a bad idea. Make sure that there's nothing that kind of lands on it or anything like that, and it's nice and clean for you in the springtime. I think that's all the things that we have to talk about today. I appreciate all your time. If you guys have more questions about how to store your motorcycle, by all means, leave them in the comments below. We'll be happy to respond to you. Please like and subscribe if you have a chance, and we'll see you next time. All right, thanks, guys. On this episode of Apex Cycle, Paul talks to a can, Matt looks at his toes, and Will's like, what the f***'s wrong with these guys? All right, hello and welcome to
You basically install a lead on your bike, plug the bike in, or the intender into the battery.
Hello and welcome to Apex Cycle TV. No, it's called Apex TV, not Apex Cycle TV, Paul. Get it right the first time.